On July 12, 2016, a small nation stood its ground against the superpower and prevailed. Scarborough Shoal lies in the heart of the West Philippine Sea. The West Philippine Sea lies within our 2.2 million square kilometer exclusive economic zone. It powers the future of the Filipino people and carries 40% of global trade. In 2012, Philippine and Chinese vessels faced off at Scarborough Shoal after China blocked the arrest of its fishermen, leading to a standoff, a confrontation that led the Philippines to The Hague, where principle triumphed over power. There is no 9-dash line. The West Philippine Sea is the inheritance of the Filipino people. This is our mana. This is the way forward. This is the Unsinkable Spirit. What began as a routine patrol at Scarborough Shoal became a standoff when Chinese vessels blocked and mocked the Philippine Navy, escalating into a confrontation that could have led to war. Scarborough was not an idea. It was home, an inheritance carried by tide and hand. We call it mana, something entrusted to us. The sea fed us, sheltered us, shaped us, and asked in return that we protect it.
Kaya noon pong nagsimula ako sa pangingisda ay sa murang edad ko pa lang po noon, 7 taong gulang ko noon, ay sinasama na po ako ng aking magulang sa kanilang pangingisda. Hindi pa po namin pinapansin ang nasabing Scarborough Shoal dahil unang-una noong mga kabataan ko sa dekada 70, talaga naman nasagana pa ang isda noong mga panahon na yon.
Pag pumapalawat kami dyan sa West Philippine Sea, sa Scarborough, napakalaya talaga dyan. Makakita kami ng ibang lahi, sama-sama lang talaga dun sa area.
At saka nung pong araw po sa Scarborough po, marami talagang isda po sa Scarborough nung araw po. Pag tuwing may bagyo po, nakatago po kami dun sa loob ng Scarborough. Kahit na po mahalon, safety po kayo dun sa loob ng Scarborough.
Scarborough is in Zambales. Ito as a fishing ground for our fishermen from Zambales and Pangasinan.
General Juancho Saban commanded the country's most exposed frontier. As former head of the Western Command, or Westcom, he was responsible for the vast maritime space where Palawan faces the West Philippine Sea. Under his watch, Scarborough Shoal and the waters beyond Palawan were understood not just as military zones, but as living spaces, fishing grounds, shipping lanes, and future energy reserves. His role was to secure what could be secured, to deter without provoking, and to make clear that the West Philippine Sea was not distant territory, but part of the Philippines' daily life.
Scarborough Shoal is territory. It's above water at high tide.
Scarborough was once quiet, unchallenged. Then it was crossed. This was not a dispute over rocks. It became a question of sovereignty.
Sometime around the fourth quarter of 2011, there was a series of reports from fisher folks na naglalayag sa Scarborough Shoal about a sighting of a ship, a white ship, an identified white ship that seems to be patrolling the area around Scarborough Shoal. So that was a question mark for us.
Rear Admiral Romel Jude Ong was the operational commander who enforced Philippine law at Scarborough Shoal.
The Navy is deputized by law to help out implement the maritime law.
At the time of the Scarborough Shoal incident, Admiral Alexander Pama was the flag officer in command of the Philippine Navy. The BRP Gregorio del Pilar, then the Navy's capital ship, was deployed to northern Luzon, primarily in response to intelligence that debris from a North Korean rocket launch might land in the area. Although the rocket ultimately landed far from Philippine waters, Northern Luzon Command had already received intelligence reports that Chinese fishermen were conducting illegal activities in Scarborough Shoal, setting the context for the events that followed.
the BRP Gregorio del Pilar. At that time was our capital ship.
The Philippine Navy exists to protect Filipinos, their livelihoods, and the seas that sustain them. In an archipelago too often focused on land, the Navy stands guard over the blue economy, the fishing grounds, and the nation's maritime future, because to defend the sea is to defend the country and its way of life.
I gave them instruction na make sure recorded yung boarding and make sure you smile. Okay, yung boarding team ko, I gave specific instructions kasi we were anticipating that the embassy will charge us for harassment. So they followed to the letter naman yung instructions. Okay. So eventually they were able to board the first fishing vessel around 8 o'clock in the morning. But ang initial report na already sa akin was nakita na nila hina-harvest yung corals natin dun sa Scarborough.
The first step should be the diplomatic approach. Because if go for gray to gray, it might trigger not only conflict between two countries, it might even provoke a regional conflict.
PRRM has spent over 7 decades in rural development. We were biased in favor of farmers, and the fisherfolk told us, food is not just rice, it is also fish. The Philippines is more than 300,000 square kilometers of land. Our exclusive economic zone is 2.2 million square kilometers. We are the 15th largest fishing nation in the world. The Philippines is a maritime and archipelagic nation, or MANA. Mana natin ito. We must defend it.
Ang mga Vietnamese naman po ay magaling din namang makisama. At kung ano yung mayroon silang pagkain, ano rin yung mayroon sa amin. Pagka naubusan sila ng pagkain doon at inabutan kami ng unos, talagang maganda yung barter na nangyayari.
Kiusap sila, kikilibilo, para namin din mangingisda. Kung ano yung ipinapalit nila sa amin na gusto nilang kainin, ipinapalit din namin sa kanila.
Sa pangingisda namin noon kumpara sa ngayon, noon kasi may mga nakakahalubilo kami ng mga ibang lahi katulad ng mga sa Vietnam, pag pumapalawat kami dyan sa West Philippine Sea. Sa Scarborough, napakalaya talaga dyan. Makakita kami ng ibang lahi, sama-sama lang talaga dun sa area.
Wala po kaming nakita na nambubuli sa amin. Maliban sa mga nangyari noon sa mga China, na talaga mula nung nagkaroon ng tensyon at nagkaroon nga ng standoff dahil doon sa mga ganong pangyayari.
Yung mensahe ko lang sa gobyerno na gusto ko lang na may paglaban nila para sa mga kabataan na mayroon pang generation na mangingisda, na mayroon pa silang maasahan na hanggang sa paglaki nila, mayroon pang marami pang makukuha ng isda.
This is our mana. This is the way forward. This is the Unsinkable Spirit. Gray to gray is when armed warships face each other at sea, where even the smallest move can start a war and change the course of history.
So they were harvesting yung corals doon, tsaka yung taklobo ron. So inakyat nila yung first vessel. Kasama pala doon sa instruction ko was to check out yung radio communications nila. So eventually they were able to board several vessels. I forgot what time after lunch. Nung medyo medyo umalma na yung meron ng yung inaabangan ko na aalma yung embassy, umalma na. Okay. So medyo nag-escalate na sila sa Manila nung situation.
They even have caught live sharks, which are also prohibited. Not only in the Philippine marine laws, but internationally, these are endangered maritime resources.
Illegal fishing is a violation of both Philippine and international law, and foreign vessels have no right to exploit resources within Philippine waters.
Ang ginagawa dyan, pag they violate maritime laws, aarestuhin natin yan, hihilain namin sila and dadalhin sa San Fernando, La Union. That was the protocol They were also physically preventing our Navy people from physically arresting the fishermen.
I think that this is the time na pumasok na yung tinatawag nating white on white narrative. So the solution was tapatan mo yung white ship with another white ship, which is yung Coast Guard. So doon na nag-start no 2012 yung white on white, which we have objected to kasi ang point namin, that's the Chinese line eh. They want us to de-escalate.
White on white is when Coast Guard ships meet at sea, holding the line through restraint, where strength is shown not by force, but by discipline.
But the patrol of the exclusive economic zone has been a traditional Navy responsibility since post-World War II pa.
No shots were fired, but no one could move.
As far as I remember, wala namang tutukan ng baril. They physically prevented our Navy people enforcing our laws. So doon ang nag-umpisa yung standoff.
So the instructions I got at that time was to pull out already by 5 p.m. to terminate all our activities, and we were supposed to be replaced by the Coast Guard.
They physically prevented our Navy people from arresting their fishermen. As far as I remember, wala namang tutukan ng baril.
In law enforcement, jurisdiction is one of the key elements for us to effect enforcement of laws.
So doon ang nag-umpisa yung standoff. Wala namang, as far as I remember, wala namang tutukan ng baril talaga.
The standoff was set. Restraint became the strategy.
I think that this is the time na pumasok na yung tinatawag nating white on white narrative. Meaning, na-frame yung narrative na when you use a naval vessel or gray ship, it is escalatory.
As the events at Scarborough unfolded, the battle was no longer just at sea. It had shifted into the realm of narrative. The Chinese claimed warships were being used against law enforcement vessels. Faced with a growing propaganda campaign, the president made a strategic decision. The Navy would pull back, and the Philippine Coast Guard would take its place. This was not about surrendering the country's position. It was about strengthening it. The Coast Guard was a proper face of law enforcement at sea. So the Philippines met narrative with narrative, standing its ground within the framework of international law.
The Philippines sits at the heart of the Coral Triangle, home to over 500 coral species and 2,500 fish species. Our waters are some of the most biodiverse in the world, yet they face growing threats. Fisheries and aquaculture are the largest contributors to the country's ocean economy, adding 269.40 billion pesos to GDP and employing over 1 million Filipinos. But despite their importance, marine ecosystems are in danger. 90% of Philippine corals are in poor or fair condition, putting food security and livelihoods at risk. The Ocean Health Index ranks the Philippines 197 out of 220 countries, with low scores in food provision and coastal livelihoods. Challenges like overfishing, plastic pollution, habitat destruction, and climate change are taking a toll on our marine resources. The Philippines is taking action. As part of the Coral Triangle Initiative and multiple global agreements, we are committed to protecting biodiversity, conserving marine habitats, and ensuring sustainable fisheries. Locally, the government has implemented key initiatives such as marine protected areas, coastal and marine ecosystem management programs, and the Philippine Ecosystem and Natural Capital Accounting System, ensuring our marine resources are valued and protected. But we need a streamlined governance structure, stronger policies, stricter enforcement, and community-driven solutions. By empowering local governments, reducing destructive fishing practices, and expanding marine protected areas, we can build a resilient and thriving blue economy. Our oceans are our lifeline. Protecting them today means securing food, jobs, and a sustainable future for generations to come. Join the movement. Support sustainable fisheries. Protect our seas.
This is our mana. This is the way forward. This is the Unsinkable Spirit.
White to white means the chances of a shooting war is reduced. The white to white approach actually was originally espoused by the late Commodore Sam Bateman, who was incidentally one of my professors in Australia. He argued that using Coast Guards in the prosecution or in the projection of a state's interest at sea can be more peaceful because it also exudes that message of being humanitarian. Because we believe that our strength lies in our moral high ground.
The instructions I got at that time was to pull out already, and we were supposed to be replaced by the Coast Guard.
The decision was made by the President, the Commander-in-Chief.
The objective was de-escalation without surrender.
The diplomatic approach, because if we go for gray to gray, it might trigger a regional conflict.
White on white did not end the standoff. It froze it long enough for the law to enter. The term West Philippine Sea did not begin as a slogan. It began as a definition.
If my memory serves me right, way back in early 90s to mid-90s, I was assigned in the Naval Intelligence, and our internal reports and even the reports, we were using West Philippine Sea to basically identify the area within the 200-mile exclusive economic zone, particularly on the west side of the Philippines.
The Philippines needed a precise term for the portion where it has sovereign rights under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS.
So when we say West Philippine Sea, it's quite a focused and accurate area that what we're referring to heighten and justify and even clarify what we're talking about. Na, to be clear na ito yung amin.
Philippine territory was mapped as early as 1734. In that year, Jesuit cartographer Pedro Murillo Velarde produced the first official map of the Philippines, the Carta Hidrográfica y Cartográfica de las Islas Filipinas.
So, way back in 1734, Scarborough Shoal and the Spratlys were already part of Philippine territory. And this was carried over in the next official map of Philippine territory during the Spanish regime, 1808 map. And then the last official map of Philippine territory during the Spanish regime is the 1875 Carta General.
White on white was meant to stop a war.
Because we believe that our strength lies in our moral high ground. Again, Coast Guards are the protector of rules and laws. We can't go down to their level. We will be losing that advantage if we will do it. So we won't.
This was not retreat. This was doctrine executed.
So the Navy was just in a distance, quote-unquote stone's throw away, that in the event that something happens, they bring in the naval assets. We were also there to support the Coast Guard vessels.
White on white works only if both sides respect the same rules.
There has been talks, and I think we should also know that there was supposed to be a discussion and agreement brokered by the Americans, that there was going to be a simultaneous pull-out by both the Philippines and China. And I think the Philippines, tayo, sinunod naman natin yung usapan na yun na pull out. And I think the other aspect about that na pumayag din tayo mag-pull out, there was a low pressure or a typhoon that was coming in. Parang double purpose na rin. Sumunod tayo dun sa tawag dito, yung sa usapan na yun. And at the same time, for the safety of our ships. Unfortunately, the other side, they did not follow it.
Bateman's doctrine assumed symmetry. Scarborough exposed asymmetry.
Parang yung it doesn't hit you immediately. It hit us a few months later.
So when the decision was made at the highest level, I remember in one meeting at that time, it was not just me or the Secretary of Defense and the President. I remember vividly, then Senate President Enrile was there. Of course, the Secretary Del Rosario, the DFA, Secretary Gasmin, and then the Commandant of the Coast Guard already. Kasi doon na yung decision kung how we were going to move forward And that particular aspect about the gray on white ng status to be changed into white on white was decided upon by the President. So it was a national leadership decision. Now it's also sabi mo nga kanina, di ba, why did we follow it's also a unilateral decision on our part to de-escalate the situation on the ground at that time.
But there are some things that you cannot just resolve that way, no.
Yung pangingisda namin noon kumpara sa ngayon, noon talagang malaya pa. Yung mga ibang lahi katulad ng mga Vietnam, nakakasalamuha talaga namin yan.
Wala po kaming nakita na nambubuli sa amin. Maliban sa mga nangyari noon sa mga China, na talagang mula nung nagkaroon ng tensyon at nagkaroon nga ng standoff dahil doon sa mga ganong pangyayari, alam ko nung mga panahon na yon, nung nagkaroon na ng tensyon, maging ang mga lahing yan ay itinataboy na rin po nila at pinapalayo na. At wala lang ibang makalapit. Gusto nila na sila na lang po yung makakapasok doon sa Baho de Masinloc at sila na lang yung nakakapangisda sa lugar.
Nakakagigil talaga. Kasi unang-una, imbis na mga kapwa natin Pilipino na mangingisda, ang makinabang. Sila ang nakikinabang at ibinebenta sa atin mismo. Tayo yung umaangkat. Na ang alam natin is huli nila, pero doon mismo sa katubigan natin hinuhuli.
This is our mana. This is the way forward. This is the Unsinkable Spirit. When the sea could no longer be moved, the problem moved inland. What began as a maritime incident became a decision of state, calling for a whole-of-nation approach to defend what is ours.
If we send our Marines there to retake, it will be a massacre.
These are diplomatic and political matters already, but the Navy just continued our mandate, which is we continued to patrol the area, we continued to assert our sovereignty because there was no decision umatras na we gave up on that. And even up to now, we stand pat on our position. We still have sovereign rights on those areas. So it's only proper and incumbent on us, for the Navy for that matter, and even the Coast Guard, to continue with our mandate of securing those areas as we see right now. That's continuing.
One option was force. Everyone in the room understood its cost.
And as Commander-in-Chief, your primary duty is to defend Philippine territory.
Parang manageable pa naman sa level namin But it was all decided na sa Manila.
At sea, restraint had held. In Malacanang, restraint had to find a successor.
The Chinese also did that. They will not do anything unless they've planned for it. In other words, they planned. They trained, they were prepared. It would have been called the Battle of Scarborough Shoal if we took the bait. The purpose of the UNCLOS is that to preserve peace and stability in all regions of the world, you can only claim based on UNCLOS. 12 nautical miles territorial sea, 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone, and extended continental shelf up to an additional 150 nautical miles.
The exclusive economic zone grants exclusive rights to fish, energy, and resources.
UNCLOS was approved and China ratified. When you ratify UNCLOS, you give your consent in advance to arbitration. China, you already gave your consent in advance, so you cannot say that there is no consent.
Because it is anchored in UNCLOS. So if you anchor something to a law, which by itself is already an icon of support of the majority, then it will follow that you will have the support of the world.
For the fishermen, the change was immediate. Boats were turned away. Every time a fisherman comes home with empty nets, a Filipino family goes hungry. This was no longer about distance, but about survival and being pushed out of one's own waters.
Nasan 40 or 30 nautical miles pa lang kami, hinaharang na nila kami. Yung ibang mga bangka, talagang sinisira nila yung mga bubong or itinatabol talaga.
Ngayon po, tumabi po kami sa gilid ng bahura ng Scarborough para po mangawil po kami ng mga isdang bato. Ang nangyari po, sinundan po kami ng tatlong Chinese Coast Guard po na diesel po.
Alam ko noong mga panahon na yon, nung nagkaroon na ng tensyon, ay maging ang mga lahing yan ay itinataboy na rin po nila at pinapalayo na. At wala lang ibang makalapit.
Nakakagigil talaga. Kasi una-una, imbis na mga kapwa natin Pilipino na mangingisda, ang makinabang, sila ang nakikinabang at ibinebenta sa atin mismo. Tayo yung umaangkat. Na ang alam natin is huli nila, pero doon mismo sa katubigan natin hinuhuli.
For the men and women at sea, law was not an abstraction. It was permission to hold the line.
I propose that we should bring China to an UNCLOS tribunal to question the 9-dash line.
It was because of that Scarborough that this was filed.
Yung mensahe ko lang sa gobyerno na gusto ko lang na may paglaban nila para sa mga kabataan na mayroon pang generation na mangingisda, na mayroon pa silang maasahan na hanggang sa paglaki nila, mayroon pang marami pang makukuha ng isda.
Laban lang po tayo, ma'am. Walang bitawan. Atin to eh. Atin po yung Scarborough, ma'am. Laban lang, ma'am, habang may buhay.
On January 22, 2013, in the quiet halls of The Hague, the Philippines formally filed its case before the Permanent Court of Arbitration, responding not with cannons, but with lawfare. Scarborough Shoal was never just rock and reef. It was a living inheritance that shaped the future of generations of Filipinos. The decision handed down on July 12, 2016 did not end the struggle at sea, but changed its terrain. It invalidated China's expansive claims and reinforced UNCLOS as the governing framework for all maritime conduct in the world. The victory armed the Philippines not with missiles, but with legitimacy, and proving that even a small nation can win. On July 12, 2016, a small nation stood its ground against the superpower and prevailed. Scarborough Shoal lies in the heart of the West Philippine Sea. The West Philippine Sea lies within our 2.2 million square kilometer exclusive economic zone. It powers the future of the Filipino people and carries 40% of global trade. In 2012, Philippine and Chinese vessels faced off at Scarborough Shoal after China blocked the arrest of its fishermen, leading to a standoff, a confrontation that led the Philippines to The Hague, where principle triumphed over power. There is no 9-dash line. The West Philippine Sea is the inheritance of the Filipino people. This is our mana. This is the way forward. This is the Unsinkable Spirit. While the world argued in court, Filipinos endured at sea.
The 9-dash line cannot prevail over our exclusive economic zone.
You always ask, what are we fighting for?
Sila ang nakikinabang at ibinebenta sa atin mismo.
We have not defended our sovereignty. We would still be in the status quo.
You know, we won an area larger than our total land area.
Kaya kailangan nating ipagtanggol kung ano yung karapatan natin.